We all know Lightroom is a powerful editing tool, right? Well, here's why your edits might be bad. There can of course be many reasons for bad edits, but in this video, I'll show you the worst mistakes you might be making. With the inclusion of AI masks in Lightroom, we have the ability to easily select a whole host of objects, but this can make us very lazy. Although the selections Lightroom creates are often good, they are not always perfect. This is why we absolutely have to check what Lightroom selects. Let's use this photo and ask Lightroom to create a subject selection. I'll zoom into 200% to check the selection Lightroom has made. You'll be horrified to know how many selections I've had to fix that I thought were good before zooming in. See this area here? Lightroom thinks this is part of my subject, but it clearly is not. If I apply an effect to the selection, this part of the image receives that effect, and I don't want that. To fix this, I need to subtract the problem area from the initial subject selection. To do this, simply select the mask, click subtract, select the desired tool, and in this case a brush, and remove the unwanted areas. Avoid bad sky selections too. In this example, I'll select the sky. Notice how the selection has a part missing from it. I'll fix that by adding to the selection, painting with a brush to include that part of the sky. Underexposing the shadows or overexposing the highlights on a photograph is a problem. You're losing detail in those areas. Using the clipping warnings in Lightroom is key to maintaining good details on your edits. There are multiple ways to see if you're losing any detail. When editing, monitor these two small triangles. If they show white or a color, there is detail clipping. Hover your mouse over these triangles and you'll see what has been clipped, represented on your photograph as either blue for shadow clipping or red for highlight clipping. If you click these triangles, a small box appears to permanently activate the clipping warnings on your image. Click the two triangles again to remove the clipping warning. You can also hold the Alt or Option button when adjusting the blacks, whites, shadows, or highlight slider. If you're adjusting shadows or blacks while holding the Alt or Option button, the image will turn white and show any clipping as black or a color. If you're adjusting highlights or whites while holding the Alt or Option button, the image will turn black and indicate any clipping as white or a color. The clipping warnings showing as a color indicates that a certain color channel is clipped. If you're taking your photograph into Photoshop or any other software for further editing, do not apply any sharpening. Rather leave the sharpening until you are finished with the edit. When you apply sharpening, you're applying a very fine contrast to edges, and this can create halos, especially along very contrasted edges like the mountain and sky here. If you're applying sharpening and apply further edits, you run the risk of amplifying those halos. Also, you may want to apply a different sharpening technique to the image. But if you've sharpened and applied further editing in Photoshop, for example, you can't go back and undo the baked-in sharpening effect. I never sharpen my images unless I know it's complete or if I'm editing in Lightroom only. Chromatic aberration or color fringing is an unwanted effect of the lens not focusing all colors at exactly the same point and results in purple or green fringing along edges. Fortunately, this is incredibly easy to fix, but often gets overlooked. To correct this, simply go to the lens correction panel and click this checkbox. Simple. I do this to every single photograph I edit. Nothing bugs me more than when I see a photograph with a skew horizon. It's such a simple thing to fix. If your photo suffers from a skew horizon like this photo does, go into the crop tool and either click and drag the crop box to rotate the photo, or click on the straighten tool and click on the photo from one horizon point to the other. This will correct the skew horizon with ease. I often see photographs with way too much color saturation. Knowing how the saturation and vibrance sliders work can help in adjusting the colors of your photograph properly. The saturation slider increases or decreases all of the colors in a photograph equally, no matter how strong or weak the color is. The vibrance slider, however, is a smart saturation tool. Vibrance will only increase saturation of weaker colors and avoid saturating the stronger colors. Using saturation on a dull photo works well, but using vibrance on an intense sunset, for example, will increase the saturation in weaker colors but protect the very saturated reds and oranges from receiving adjustment. You can also increase or decrease saturation of specific colors in the HSL panel, as well as the different color channels in the calibration panel. Overusing the shadows and highlight sliders often leads to very flat looking photographs. Try avoid dropping the highlights and increasing the shadows too much. A better way to bring the dynamic range of the photograph photograph down is to drop the exposure slightly, increase the blacks, increase the whites to bring back some contrast, and then use the shadows and highlight sliders carefully to finely tweak the exposure. Compare these two examples. The image on the left used too much shadows and highlights, and the image on the right used my preferred method as described. Sharpening areas that are out of focus will increase noise and must be avoided. That's why Lightroom includes a masking feature in the detail panel for sharpening. When you apply sharpening, hold down the Alt or Option button and click and drag the masking slider. Your photo will change to show either black or white. Any areas indicated in white will be sharpened and any areas in black won't be sharpened. Find the sweet spot where all details are white and all out of focus areas are black. The new AI denoise in Lightroom is great at removing noise, but make sure you know about the issues it can cause. Click here and check out this video next, and make sure to avoid problems when using Lightroom AI denoise.